Before you begin, I just want to say a few things, okay? First, you're going to make a mess. That's okay. Cooking can sometimes lead to huge messes. But you're going to clean it up, okay? Boys, I don't want you to leave it for your parents or for a helper or a cleaner or anyone, okay? You're going to make the mess, you're going to clean it, okay? That's important. I want you boys to learn responsibility. If you were in my classroom, I would expect the same from you. If you made the mess, you would clean it up, okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I want you boys to have fun. This is meant to be a fun activity where we combine what we've learned in class, okay? I don't like my classes to just be purely boring information downloaded. And while I'm saying that, I know that some of you are going to follow the instructions and your recipes are going to flop or something's going to go wrong. You're going to burn the sugar or whatever. That's okay. That doesn't mean you fail, all right? What I want to see is an attempt. So in your video, if your feedback, you go, this is what I tried, it failed. That's okay. That's a part of science. When we do experiments, we test something, and if it fails, we learn from it. Okay. So if it fails and you're able to try again, please try again, okay? But I don't mind if you fail. That's not what it is. You're still going to report back and say, I tried to make this and it failed because I did this or because of that or whatever it may be, all right? So that's the second thing. The third thing I want to say, and this is very, very, very important, boys. So look at me. Be careful, all right? We're going to be working with some very hot liquids, with some sharp knives in some cases, and I don't want you boys to get hurt. That's why I have asked your parents to help you. Do not do this alone. You are not allowed to do it alone. I want an adult in the room with you, okay? And if for whatever reason, over the next 2 weeks, your parents are unable to help you, and you're unable to do the assignment, then just get your parents to write me an email or send me a message. But it is very important they're in the room with you. Okay, this is to keep you safe. Okay, other than that, boys, those are the three most important things starting out. The recipe is going to start in a minute. Have a fantastic time, okay? Try and enjoy it. Try and see what's fun about it. Maybe you'll figure out you like cooking. If not that, I'm sure you like sugar and chocolate, okay? All right, boys. So once you've got your oranges, you're going to need a short, sharp knife. Also known as a paring knife, and we're going to score the orange. So score means you're just going to stick the tip of the knife in and you're going to run along the peel. This is to help us peel the orange. Now, we're going to go in at the top, stick the edge in. Let me not hold the knife like that. Stick it in and make my way down like this. Okay. All right. From point to point. So we're going from top to bottom. And I've already made a few lines in this. Okay, there's the one. There's the other one. So these are all the lines I need, and then I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm going to cut along the top around the top of this orange, making sure to not cut towards my fingers. That would be dangerous. And then what I'm going to do is just use my finger, slide down, not like that, but it's still okay. What I'm going to try and do is keep the peels whole, so they come off like that. Okay, I'm going to try this one. There we go. So we're getting peeled like that. There we go. All right. Fantastic. There we go. So you're just going to do that to all your oranges so that you have some nice long orange peels like this. Okay. All right. Now that you got your orange peels, we're going to cut them into strips. So this is just to make things easier. So I'm going to go for about 1 centimeter. So about that much space there. And I'm just going to cut along. So careful with your fingers here, boys. And there we go. So those should be okay. All right. Look there. Let's do it to all of them. Alright boys, so once you've got your orange peels cut, what we're going to do is we're going to blanch the orange peels first. Now blanching just means we're going to toss them in some boiling water for a few minutes, and when we do that, what happens is that hot water kills all the bacteria that might be on the orange peel, making sure it's clean, and we're not going to, when we add sugar, give that bacteria a whole lot of food to just go crazy with. What it also does is makes it nicer, brings out the color a bit more and softens it so it's ready to absorb those sugars, okay? So all we do is we get some boiling water. I've boiled in the kettle, put in the pot, put it on the high heat, got it boiling. You should be able to see the steam rising. And then all we do is we dump the orange peels in, okay? Be careful when dumping them in that none of the water splashes out and hurts you. And now we're just going to let that water come back up to a boil, okay? Because when I dropped the orange peels in, the water would have gotten colder. And now I'm just waiting for the water to start bubbling again. And once it starts bubbling, I'm going to time 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, we'll separate, okay? So let's wait for 5 minutes quickly.
All right, so there we go. The orange peels are boiling nicely. So we just leave it to boil for another 5 minutes or so, okay?
We finished blanching, the 5 minutes are done. What we're going to do next is we need to get the oranges out of this water and we're going to dump the water out because it's not very nice water. It's got the wax from the orange and all that stuff in there we don't want. We just want the orange peels. So let's go back to science class. What we've learned about mixtures. This is a mechanical mixture where I can see the water and the orange peels and I want to separate them out. Now, we've learned about different processes and we're going to do one of them now. But first, I just want to tell you, we can't do hand sorting because it's hot and that would hurt. And it would take quite a while. Settling and floating doesn't quite work because some of the orange peels have actually sunk and some of them are still floating. So we can't do that either. So what we're actually going to do is sieving and filtering. So I've got a sieve here. And remember, the sieve is made of all these little holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the water through and watch. The water goes straight through the sieve. Okay, but when the orange peels come in, they fall in there and they stay in there, okay? So this is sieving and filtering. There we go. All right, so we've got our orange peels out, and now we're going to move on to candying them. So what this entails is making a syrup. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a liter of water, we're going to pour it in there, and we're going to take a cup of sugar, and then another little bit, so another half a cup, okay, of sugar. All right, quite a lot of sugar in this recipe. And now what you'll notice is we know from science class that sugar dissolves in water. But what you'll notice is that the sugar isn't dissolving in the water yet, okay? So you need to stir this water in. And in fact, I'm going to add another cup of water, okay, to help it dissolve. Because remember, the sugar is the solute, the water is the solvent. And the solute, the sugar particles, fit between the particles of the solvent, which is the water. So there are spaces between the water particles. Now, to help it dissolve, I'm going to add more water because that means more solvent particles, which means more spaces in between. And so what I want you boys to do is I want you to turn the stove on and keep stirring this until the water turns clear, until you can see the bottom of the pot and there's no more sugar in there and everything is completely dissolved. Because right now it's a mechanical mixture because I can see the sugar. I can actually scoop it out. Okay, there it is, all wet and chunky. That's a mechanical mixture. I want you to heat the water and keep stirring it until it dissolves entirely, and that's going to turn it into a solution. Once it's a solution, we're going to add our oranges. Okay?
I have continued to stir my pot, and as you can see, the syrup now, the sugar is dissolved entirely, and all we've got is the syrup solution. Now my syrup is a little bit brown because I used brown sugar with my white sugar, but that's fine. Yours will be a little clearer than mine if you use white sugar, and probably look quite similar to mine if you use brown. So you can see it's boiling quite aggressively. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the orange peels, okay? And we're going from a solution to a mechanical mixture. And you can see it stopped boiling because the oranges have gotten cold, so orange peels have gotten cold. So when I added them, the water got colder and it dropped it to a temperature that's no longer boiling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it back up to boiling point, and then I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to let it boil for about an hour, but I'm going to keep checking on it, and so should you, that it doesn't boil over, because that's the first danger. Secondly, that the water doesn't all evaporate and you burn the orange peels. Okay, so keep checking on it. All right, I'm going to leave it for an hour because I've got a very small stove. You might have the super powerful stove, so you got to check it regularly. Okay, yeah. So let's see what happens. All right, boys. So what you can see here is after an hour, the water has reduced quite a bit, okay? Or not the water, the syrup. So I just want to explain what's happening here. Is you can see the steam rising off. Now, we've spoken about this. Water in a liquid state is what we put in there. Okay, and the steam now is we're heating it enough that those particles get enough energy that they leave the water. And what's happening is the water is actually leaving in the form of a gas, and it's evaporating away into the air, okay? Now what I want to point out to you boys is that the water level has dropped. It was at about that point, and now it's much lower over there. Okay, so what's happening here is the water is turning into a gas and leaving. And because the water is leaving, there are less particles of water in here, and the level of the water is going down. Now, I want to make clear that only the water is leaving. So what's actually happening is the sugar, I'm turning it off there, the sugar is left behind. So what we've got is we've got a syrup. Okay, and if I kept boiling this water, I would be able to boil away all the water. All the water would turn into a gas and evaporate away, okay? And we'd be left with only the sugar that we first put in here. Okay, so that's the separating mixtures that we spoke about in class or on the videos called evaporation, okay? So what we did there was we evaporated the water, and the water level went down and the sugar stayed behind, okay? And hopefully some of the sugar was absorbed into these oranges, okay? Awesome. Boys, so I've removed the oranges from the orange peels from the syrup, and you can see the syrup is left behind there, okay? That syrup we're going to use to make a golden syrup. You can watch the other video if you would like to do that, or you can throw it away, I guess, if you're not going to do that. But I want to show you what we're looking for with these oranges. So I'm going to lay them here. They've cooled down enough for me to touch, obviously. Let me focus on the... So you can see here, it's gone a little see-through, and it's also gone there, a little see-through, okay? Try there. Okay, that's see-through. It's not that white color that it was in the beginning. That means it's absorbed the syrup nicely. And now I'm just going to lay them out on this grid, okay? Focus. There we go. And I'm going to lay them all out so that they can dry out a bit more, okay? Because right now they've got all this water in them and all the liquid sugar. And what's going to happen is as I leave them in the air, they're actually going to cool down and dry out, okay? Because the water on them and in them is going to evaporate. It's still quite warm, so it's going to evaporate out, and we're going to be left with a slightly drier orange peel. And it's important if we're dipping it in chocolate to let it dry out. Now, if you guys have a nice oven and it's a cold winter's day, I would recommend maybe turning the oven to 100 degrees, nice and low, and then putting it in, closing it, and turning off the oven and just leaving it there for a few hours. If you don't, then what I would recommend is either putting them on their drying rack and then putting them in the sun and letting it dry out. And make sure it's covered so flies don't land on it, because flies will love the sugar in this.